Hello so creatives, it's Faustina here. Welcome to another interesting tutorial. On today's tutorial we are going to learn how to cut and sew this beautiful gown that you are seeing on the screen. So the gown is a pencil fitted gown with side ruffles and also a one shoulder with puff sleeve, which is also known as balloon sleeve. So this part of the video is the sewing part of it. So we have already uploaded the drafting part of the beautiful gown. So if you would like to learn how I cut and put it together from scratch, you can go back and watch the drafting part, or I will put it as an end screen or card on top of this particular tutorial. So on the drafting part, we tackled a lot of problem. We tackled how to eliminate zipper bulge and how to pencil our fitted pencil gown very well, and also how to form our off shoulder balloon sleeve. So it's not something that we like to miss. And this is the material we made use of. It's a 3 yards per material, 3 yards by 60 inches, and this is all our drafting tool that we use and drafted our pattern. So like I said earlier, we have already drafted the pattern and also transfer it to our fabric. So this is the down part, and we have already added our necessary allowance, and by the side we added 1 inch sewing allowance. For the upper part, I added half an inch on the neck area, half an inch on the shoulder, half an inch on the armhole area, 1 inch sewing allowance by the side, which is also known as our seam allowance, and half an inch on the waist, and also added the same to the back. But the back difference is that I added extra 1 inch zipper allowance on the center back, and that is it. On the shoulder I added half an inch, on the neck I added half an inch. So the pattern is still in its basic form. So we now start altering it in order to get our one shoulder pattern. So I'm going to close up the back and make sure that the two zip are aligning on each other, and I'm going to introduce the front part and place it on top of the back, and also make sure that the two shoulder, both the back and the front, are matching each other, both on the shoulder and on the armhole. Make sure that the two shoulders are matching both on the shoulder and the armhole. So after arranging my fabric, I will now choose which part of the shoulder that I want to come down from to form our one shoulder sleeve. So after getting the shoulder that you want your one shoulder sleeve to be on the other shoulder we are going to come down by 5 inch, and that 5 inch we are going to find the center neck of our gown, and we are going to also mark it. And after getting the center neck of our gown, from our other shoulder tip, which is our neck tip, we are going to now curve it all the way to the 5 inch that we came down from, while maintaining our center neck curve. So we are going to curve it to the 5 inch that we came down from, like so, while maintaining our center neck curve. So after getting the curve, we are now going to go ahead and cut it out. So by so doing, you have formed your one shoulder neck. So I'm going ahead to go and cut it out, but before cutting, make sure that your fabric is well arranged, and also note that you are going to place your hand on top of the fabric to avoid the fabric from shaking up and down. So after cutting now, we will now start transferring our pattern dart on our main fabric. So this is our patterns. You see the back, the tutu back, and the center front. So this is how you go about transferring your dart pattern to your main fabric. We are going to notch the center of our upper part, and after getting the center, I'm going to now lay the pattern. You remember that this pattern is a half pattern, so I'm going to lay it on the center of our main upper part, and now trace out my dart. Like when adding the pattern on top of your main fabric, also note the allowances that you put earlier. And after tracing my dart, I'm going to also do the same to the other side and go and head my dart. And before then, I also went ahead to cut out my facing, the facing that I'm going to use to turn the neck of my beautiful upper part. So I'm now basically going to sew the facing by 1/2 inch. The facing is laying on the right side of our beautiful fabric, and also do the same to the back. You can see that the facing is laying on the right side of our fabric. I also went ahead to head the back dart and also the front dart. So I'm going to go ahead to my sewing machine and now sew 1/2 inch on the facing before I will now come back and show you how we are going to now go about the facing. So I'll quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and run half an inch on all the facings. So this is it. I've gone ahead to run 1/2 inch on the one back of our facing, and this is how we go about it. After running your 1/2 inch, you now go ahead and start notching it in order to ease the thread. After notching it, I'm going to flip the facing to the other side and make sure that the allowances that you sewed is facing the facing part of your facing, and we are going to go ahead and stretch it out and top stitch on the facing part. So this is it. I've already gone ahead to top stitch on the facing part. You can see that I shifted the allowances towards my facing before I top stitch on top of my facing. So after which, I went ahead to trim out the excess a bit, and I'm going to now flip the facing on the wrong side of our pattern. And I also go to my sewing machine and go and top stitch it small, in order to keep the facing one place, like in order to keep the facing one place to avoid it flipping up and down. So I've gone ahead to do the same to all other upper pattern, and this is it. I use the same method to turn the facing of both the front and the back. So we now start joining them to the down part. Remember that the down part does not have any dart intake, so we close the dart from our main pattern. So this is how you join your upper part to the down part. This is the back part, and we are going to introduce the upper part of the back. And from the zipper allowance, if you watch close, you can see that the back has a notch, and from the upper part zipper allowance, we are going to place it directly on the down part zipper allowance in order to align the fabric to meet the down part. You can see what I'm doing. From the zipper part, the upper zipper part and the down zipper part, I'm aligning them together and I'm pinning them together. So after pinning them together, I quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and run 1/2 inch on the waist in order to keep it together. And for the front, we are going to notch the center part of our front, both the upper part and the down part. So I've already notched the upper part. I'm going to keep it aside, and for the down part, I'm also going to go ahead and notch the center. So after getting the tutu center of both the upper part and the down part, we are now going to basically line the upper part on the center. Both the upper part center and the down part center will be meeting each other, and you now go ahead and arrange your other fabric on the waist and now pin them down. After pinning them down to the other edges, from one edge to another, you are now going to sew from one edge of the waist to meet this other edge. And this is also how we join the upper part to the down part. So I will now quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and join it from one end to another end. And after joining it, this is what we are going to have. So let's move over to our sewing machine and go and sew it. So I'm going ahead to sew it. Also do the same to the back. So we now start working on the zipper area. So I'm basically going to close my two back and align the waist and use my office pin to pin it down on the zipper area. So I'm also going to pin the upper part on the zipper area. So from the waist of our center back, I'm going to come down by 10 inches where our zip will stop. So I normally like coming like 1 inch below our hip line. So this 10 inches is where our zip is going to stop. So I'm going to mark it. After marking it out, I'm also going to now start marking 1 inch all the way to where our back slit will also stop. So from the hem part of our gown, this one is where I'm going to run a stitch. So from the hem part of my gown, I'm going to mark from the hem up to 22 inches. From the hem to 22 inches is where my back slit will stop. So I'm going to also mark it, and I'm also going to go ahead and run a stitch from where my zip will stop to where my slit will start, and after which I will now go ahead and insert my zip on the allowance that we left earlier. So I've gone ahead to insert my zip. You can see that the two waist of the center back is matching, and this is my slit. This is my slit opening. I'm going over to my ironing table to go and iron the sleeve opening flat with my hemming gun, and this is it. I'm now going to keep the back by the side, and we will now start working on the ruffles of the front. So from our leftover pieces, we are now going to cut out strips of fabric that we are going to use to form the side ruffles. So the length of this fabric, like I said earlier, is 60 inches length, and we are now going to cut out 6 inches width of the length 60 into 4 places. So the four places, we are going to join one we have two joining, and the other one we have two joining, which making it one piece we have like 120 inches length, while the other piece we have 120 inches length. So I'm going to go ahead and now cut it off camera. The width of the long strip of fabric is 6 inches, while the length is 60 inches as long as the fabric. So I will now go ahead and cut it out. So I've gone ahead to cut it out. Like I said, this is 4 pieces, and the length of the strip is 60 inches, while the width is 6 inches. So I'm now basically going to now join two together to sew it, and join the other two together in order to get 120 inches length. So I'm now basically going to join two, the right side of the two facing each other. I'm going to pin it down and go and join it by half an inch, and also join the other one by half an inch. So one will serve for the one side of the ruffles, and the other one will serve for the one side of the ruffles as well. So after pinning it down, I will now quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and sew by half an inch. So after joining the two long strip of fabric, we'll be having 120 inches length of fabric by 60 inches width. So after joining them, I will also go ahead and hem one side of our ruffle by 1 inch. I will hem it very small, not big hemming, in order to keep that place very neat and smart. So I will now quickly move over to my sewing machine and go and join the two strip of fabric before I will now start hemming one side in order to give it a neat finishing. So I've gone ahead to join it and also hem one side of our ruffles. This is the outcome. So after hemming it, we now start joining it to our gown, and we are going to join it on the front part. But before we join it, we are going to go ahead and mark out our body measurement on the gown, so that we will know very well where we are going to print our ruffles on. So after marking the measurement of my gown, which is my waist, my hip, and the other places to the length of my gown, I'm now going to start plaiting the ruffles on the side of my gown, and we are going to plaint it like you are going to plaint it half inch inside the line that you marked. So this is how you go about the plaiting. Inside the line that I marked, I'm going to gently start plaiting small plaint with my hand, and as I'm plaiting, I'm sewing on top of it. I'm plaiting small. I'm gathering the strip of fabric small, like half an inch away from the line that I marked, like inside the line that you marked, so that after closing the side of your gown, the the pieces, the top pieces will be in between your two allowances, which is your front and back allowances. So I will keep on sewing it and plaiting small small till I reach to the hem part of my gown. And also note that the two edges of this strip of fabric, I also went ahead to hem it also, because those two edges will not enter into our waist. So I'll keep on plaiting it. So I've gone ahead to plait the tutu side. You can see the outcome of the side ruffles. So this is what you will have after gathering the ruffles on the side of your gown. So this is the front side. So we are going to now introduce the back part and now arrange our front part. And those ruffles is going to be inside, is going to be in between the front and the back. Don't make the ruffles to flip outside, rather drag the ruffles to be inside while you pin your front and back together. So I'm trying to pin the waist, the hip and to the length of my gown. So this is how you go about it on the tutu side of our beautiful gown. So you keep on pinning it to reach to the hem part of your gown. So like I said, I always say, normalize working with pin. It will make your work so easy for you. So after pinning from my bust to my hem, I also do the same thing to the other side of our gown. I will bring in the ruffles in between the front and the back inside, and I will now start pinning the side allowances. So after pinning it, this is what we are going to have. You see what we have. So we now start marking our bust circumference, our waist circumference, our hip circumferences, and down to our hem part of our gown. Remember, we added 1 inch sewing allowance by the side. So we are basically going to mark out the sewing allowance of 1 inch from my bust to the hem part of my gown. So remeasuring our body measurement is just to confirm if truly we have 1 inch sewing allowance by the side. So after marking this, I've gone ahead to close my beautiful gown, and this is the outcome. You see how beautiful my gown is looking. So this is it. I will also go ahead and hem the down part of my gown and also hem our back slit. So we're also going to hem our back sleeve by 1 inch and also hem the down part. So we now start working on the sleeve part. So I've gone ahead to cut out my sleeve. The sleeve with cap is the one that will go through the armhole area, while the one without cap, I went ahead to cut out, like from the cap I came down by 5 inch and I trim out the cap on the other one, which we are going to now sew it on the off shoulder part, the one without a cap. So for the one with a cap, I'm going to put an elastic on the round sleeve, and the cap side we are going to gather it in to our armhole area, while the one without cap, which is the one we are going to sew for our off shoulder side, I went ahead to cut out 6 inches band, which on fold we have 3 inches. So I'm basically going to gather the upper part and now sew in my band, and also insert my elastic on the round sleeve, on the down round sleeve of my sleeve. So I have gone ahead to sew it and also put it in our beautiful gown, and this is the outcome. If you watch closely through that armhole area, you see a gather that I gathered on the armhole, and I went ahead to insert elastic on the round sleeve, and also do the same to the one that have an off shoulder side. So I also gathered the upper part and sew in my band, and also put elastic on the round sleeve. So we have come to the end of this tutorial. If you have watched to this point, thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe and also comment in order to push our channel to meet more audience. And I love you all. Bye.